Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my January mid-month wrap-up to share with you. So I started off January, I think pretty good. I have read 14 books so far. I am filming this on the 15th of January, and I said that one of my goals is to slow down my reading, and definitely my reading has slowed down. I just want to pick up books that I really am loving, and I'm going to start DNFing books that I'm really not feeling, and I'm not going to push through when it's going to be not that great of a read for me. So with all that being said, let's just get into my statistics for the first 14 books that I've read so far this month in January. Like I said, 14 books. 1 was a physical book, 8 were ebooks, and 5 were audio. I had 10 contemporary romances, 2 fantasy/paranormal, there was 1 of each, and then 2 dark romances. And for a breakdown of star rating, I had 2 5-star reads, 3 4.5-star reads, 4 4-star reads, 2 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, and 2 DNFs. I didn't have anything below 3 besides the 2 DNFs. So out of the 14 books that I read, 6 of those books and from 6 of those authors were authors that I've never read before. That was a big goal of mine for 2023, is to pick up at least half of the books that I read be from authors that I've never read before. So we're literally almost at half, and I'm really excited about that. So let's just dive into my ratings and my thoughts. So we started off January with a bang. The first book that I read was a 5-star read, and that was Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. So I have never read anything by this author. I have heard nothing but good things from this author, and I was so excited to finally dive in. While I do have the physical book, I did not read this physically. I read it on Kindle Unlimited because I was not holding this thick book. While this was a really thick book, I absolutely loved it. This is a fantasy romance, and when I tell you this is a true fantasy romance, it really is. I said this about one other book, and that is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milla Vane. This is a perfect blend of fantasy and romance. And while the romance is very, very, very slow burn, it is there and it does pay off. It doesn't end in a cliffhanger. The next book comes out in March, but I absolutely loved it. We follow Oriya, I think that's her name, and Rain. And Oriya is the adopted daughter of the vampire king in this world. He rescues her when she is very, very young, and he trains her and, takes her in just like she's his own daughter. And she decides to go into these trials, and if you win these trials, you get something from the goddess. That's how the Vampire King kind of became the Vampire King. He is literally one of the most powerful vampires in their kingdom, basically. And she decides to go into these trials. And while she's in the trials, she meets Rain, and Rain is there because his, I would say, like, not adoptive sister, but someone who's like found family, he thinks of her as a sister, wants to go and try on these trials. And so much happens. I will say so much happens in the trials, and it was it was just such an enjoyable read. I fell in love with the characters. It's very much enemies to lovers, a vampire human. This has such a strong female character that she's not like overly independent to where she's like compensating, but she's not a limp noodle, if that makes sense. She is like the perfect blend of what I would want and I love to read in heroines, and I just loved it. Their banter is A+. I just love this book so much. I cannot wait to read more from Carissa Broadbent. I have another book on my shelf that I recently got, and I cannot wait to read that. When I asked on my community tab, someone dropped in her other series because it's a trilogy that you guys wanted me to do a series review of. So that's probably hopefully coming in February or March. I'm going to start reading those books, and I can do a full review of the series for you, so you could see if it's worth it. But so far, book 1 of this series, loving it. Cannot wait for book 2. Then I read The Fall of Troy by Dr. Rebecca Sharp. This is a contemporary/dark romance, and I got this as a recommendation from Nikki and Bookland. She talked about it as this really interesting dark romance with kind of like this professor-student aspect. So I thought, okay, let's just give it a try. So we follow our female character, Troyan. I can never say her name, but they call her Troy, and Leo, who's the hero. And I will say the audiobook kind of swayed my reading. I will say it kind of did, only because it was very hard for me to get into the narration because our main male character had such a heavy like French accent, but if it sounded fake, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite thing. I gave this book 3 stars. It's age gap, student professor, forbidden, dark. It does talk a lot of suicide, talks of suicide, self-harm, stuff like that. So it's a trigger warning for you. I wouldn't really read it. I felt that this book was a little too long, and I understand what the author was trying to do. I just didn't feel like it worked out. She goes to this different school after she basically she goes to live with her mom after she found her dad in bed with her best friend, and she people think that she tried to commit suicide, but she wasn't, because they had all these pills. She was drinking, all this stuff like that, but she explains that it's kind of an accident, but you see on the inside that she still has those like suicidal self-harm thoughts. So it's like an interesting dynamic, and I was interested in that, but I just didn't feel like everything was fleshed out very well. Like I've read books with those kind of topics, and I feel like other books have done it better, so I compare those. Unfortunately, I compared them, but it was a 3-star read, not my favorite. I listened to the audio, definitely a little too long, but if that sounds right up your alley, I'd say give it a try, but I personally didn't like it that much. And then I did a vlog reading your favorite romances of 2022. That was a collab with Just at Peace Love Books. I'll link it in the cards and the description box, so you can go check out my full thoughts of these books. But the first book that I read that I absolutely loved and fell in love with was another 5-star read. That was In the Weeds by B.K. Borson. So I've said that this is a contemporary romance, small town romance, very sweet, very cozy, I guess you can say. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you read books just at the perfect moment for you, and that was this book for me. I read it right when I needed to. There were so many quotes that just spoke to what I was going through and thinking about and stuff like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This follows Evie, or Evelyn. You see her in Love Light Farms. She's a social media person that comes to the farm, and it follows Beckett. And I will say Beckett is the ultimate book boyfriend. Holy shit, he is amazing. I love their romance. I love that they both had this character growth. I love that there was this just like comforting thing about their relationship, that it was just so easy and they fell in love so easily. And I personally just absolutely loved that part of it too. But you see this like such growth with Beckett and also with Evie, and what Evie's trying to figure out for herself. And I had so many quotes that I loved, and I absolutely love this book. I think this is A+ writing. I don't know what B.K. Borson did, but it really worked out for me, and I loved this book. The next book I read was Until You by Katharine Amara. So this is a contemporary romance. This is a brother's best friend romance. This is a forbidden, I wouldn't say it's age gap. This also has a curvy heroine and a very cool found family aspect. So this was technically my second book by Katharine Amara. Cheyenne's been talking about her. I did read The Wrong Bride, I think right before Cheyenne talked about her, and I got 40% of that way through, and I did not like what she was doing with that story. So I didn't even DNF it. I didn't even mark it. I just stopped reading it. But this one really worked for me. And so that makes me want to continue on with more of her books. But this one I gave a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved our female character, Aria. I think she is such a cool heroine. I also loved Grayson and how he kind of takes care of Aria, but also how he takes care of his best friend, Aria's brother. They had this found family aspect. Aria and her brother, their parents passed away when she was younger. Grayson's parents kind of just left him at like a church. Well, his mom just left him at a church, like kind of surrendered him. So he's kind of been passed around to foster home to foster home, but he has this super high like ranking tech company that's super well known now. He has a lot of money, and Aria just wants to use her skills, what she does in the tech world, like hacker, kind of like finder, coder, I guess you can say. But no one takes her seriously, 1, because she doesn't have any experience, but 2, because she's a woman as well. So when she has a really bad breakup, she finds her boyfriend cheating. Her brother's like, go stay with Grayson in California, work at his company, and start from there. So there's this forced proximity because they're living together for a time, and their relationship kind of comes out, and I adored it. I thought it was such a cool read. Also, Grayson had some personal things that he was going through at the end of the book, which wasn't my favorite, which is why it wasn't like a 4.5-star read. It was a solid 4-star read, but I'm really interested. I have Forever After All by Katharine Amara on my list next, so let me know if you've read any more by her and what you love, because I'm excited to continue. The next book that I read, I actually DNF'd, and that was Catalyst by Nicole Fanning. So I actually have the paperback of this, but I read it on Kindle, and this is a dark romance. It's kind of a mafia, kind of organized crime romance. So I was really intrigued. I think I DNF'd it at 60%. Yeah, I was really far into it. So there's trigger warnings for like drug use. It's right off in the prologue, and talks of drugs, because our main hero in this, Jackson, he is, head of this organized crime family, and he, pushes drugs and stuff like that. So that's not your thing, skip this one. But our female character, Natalie, I was really interested because she's going to this hotel for a wedding that her family is, her estranged family. It's like extended family. She doesn't really talk to them all too much, but she finds that this girl is in the parking garage, this little girl, which happens to be Jackson's daughter. She is getting kidnapped from obviously Jackson's enemies, and she's saving this girl, and Jackson thinks that she wants something from her, and they have this like really cool dynamic. But my thing is, in this book, is every single page has like yelling, like it's in all caps, and I didn't like the writing. I think that it was a very amateur writing, and while I think this is her first book, I understand that, but I just couldn't get past it. And I was like, I'm reading this book and it's probably going to be a 2.5 star read. Why would I continue reading a book that I know I can never recommend? Saying that I finished it doesn't do anything for me. So I just stopped reading it. Unfortunately, I have the paperback. Love it. I just don't think that I should have started with this book as like to see if this author's for me, because it wasn't the best. Then I read The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan for that reading vlog where I was reading your favorite romances of 2022, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I adored Colin and Mad's story, or Madison's story. They call her Mads, or he calls her Mads. I adored this. So I honestly thought that this was a completely different book going in. I'm going to be 100% honest. I thought this was an older woman, younger man. No, they're both in college. This is like new adult college. I think they're in their last year. But just because it's new adult college doesn't mean that this is like not grown up stuff, okay? So when Colin and Madison kind of get kicked out of their fraternity and sorority because they started this like mud fight during these games because someone cheated. Madison said that one of Colin's fraternity brothers cheated. Everyone was like, no, they didn't. They got mad at her. They started this mud fight. Someone got hurt. So instead of the sorority and fraternities being penalized, they said, okay, we're just going to kick the two people who started it out, and that's Colin and Madison. Well, they're trying to find somewhere to live because they lived in the like fraternity and sorority houses, and they both answer this ad separately, and it is for an adult film company. Yes. Their first ever, like they're very much enemies to lovers. Like they hated each other because of what happened. But their first like scene in their tryout is with each other. So like Nina and her husband, I forgot her husband's name, but that's her production company. But they've worked in this adult film business for a while. And Nina finds Madison, and Colin, her husband, finds Colin, and they come together. And she's like, you can either do the scene with my husband if you don't feel comfortable, or you can do it with this new guy. And she's like, I'm not gonna do that with your husband. That's weird. So basically, everything goes well. Their first scene is off the charts amazing. Like, if you're just looking for a fun, spicy book, this is it. Like, but also, it actually had a really good plot and everything too. Like, I really enjoyed the development of the characters. It was A++ steam, if I'm gonna say that myself. But I thought this was really cool. It talked about, adult film and how people think that's like, taboo. Like, I feel like people my age now, like, don't think of it. Like, I'm pretty sure so many people I know probably do stuff like this and post it online, and like, great for you, make that money. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, so it talks about sex workers in this like positive manner, and I personally loved it. That was a fun time. The next book I read is actually for a read along that I'm doing, and that's Runaway Road by Daphne Perry. Jess at Peace of the Books, and we are doing this Runaway series where we read one book a week. So we already had our live show for the first 2 books. This is the first book. I really enjoyed this. This is a really cool take on like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, if that makes sense. So instead of traveling pants, it's a car. So our female character, she's newly divorced in this book. She takes this Cadillac that she had restored, but you've come to find out that she was homeless back in California, and she used to live at kind of like a junkyard in this car because it didn't really start. And she finally got it started. She moved to Boston, married this guy. He had a lot of money, and I mean, now she does have a lot of money, but her marriage just fell apart. She found him cheating with his secretary, even though she was also a secretary. Very, very messy. She goes to West Virginia. She meets Brooks, and oh my God, Brooks is amazing. He's just everything I love. It's contemporary, small town, divorced heroine, single dad. He is a single dad. I don't think that's a spoiler or anything like that, but it's kind of kept a secret for a while. But I just love the dynamic. While this was short, it's not a novella, but it's not a full-length book. It's like the perfect, just cute romance, and I gave it 4 stars. I personally love this. I think it was a great start to the series. And then I'm just going to talk about the next book, which is Wild Highway by Daphne Perry. We see that London from Runaway Road, she gives Gemma the keys to the Cadillac when she comes to visit her. She's like, I'm done with this like hustle lifestyle, because she's made her own money, and she takes the Cadillac to, I think, Montana to visit a friend that used to be with all of them in this junkyard when they were homeless children, like at 16. And she meets Ethan, it's like kind of a second chance. They had a one-night stand. She left in the morning and left him without saying anything, and now she's back. It's very much enemies to lovers, hate to love. That's not my favorite, because you take so much of the book when it's short like that, developing this hate to love, and then it's like switches to lovers, and then it's just like, oh, okay, everything's done. And I felt like it was very rushed. So I give that one 3.5 stars, but it's a good start to the series. I cannot wait for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book. We're gonna have the live show on February 1st on Justice Channel for the last 3 books, so you can join us. And then I read Offsides by by Avery Keelan. This is a new to me author, and this is a hockey romance, and I loved this new adult hockey romance. I don't know what it was. I picked this up. People were talking about it. I personally like the dude cover. Not gonna lie. I love the discreet cover too. It's cute, but I love the guy cover. I give this book 4.5 stars. While this is new adult college, let me tell you, Chase and Bailey, oh my God, is so amazing. And I love the dynamic because it's rival teams. So Bailey's brother plays for one team at her college because her and her brother go to the same college. But Chase is from the rival college, near the same town or whatever. And he plays on the opposite hockey team. So they're rival hockey teams. So she's torn when her boyfriend at the time, they break up, and he also plays on the hockey team. Chase and her develop this really cool friendship where they're just kind of winging it, and they're just hanging out and doing shit. And when I tell you, Chase pines after her, and he takes her on hot chocolate dates, and they go skating together when the ice rink is closed at night, and he's so romantic, and I loved him so much. I just had such a good time reading this book, and my 4.5 star rating was only because it wasn't a 5 star, it was a 4.5 star because it was just a little too long. It's almost 600 pages, it's a little over 550, but it was absolute perfection, and I loved it. The next book I read and DNF'd was Restore Me by J.L. Seeger. So this is a new to me author, and Caitlin from the Love Librarian, she sent me this physical copy because I talked about this in my vlog, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this book. It's just I DNF'd it because I was listening to the audio, and the audio narrator for the female character is not good. I don't think that she did a good job. Basically, the whole premise of this book is Sloane, our female character, she lost her husband 4 years ago, and she starts to have feelings for Dominic, who is her dead husband's best friend, but they've always kind of hated each other and had this enemies to lovers aspect, or enemies aspect, and I just felt that even though her husband died and she loved him so much, there was no emotion in the narrator's voice, and it really messed with me because I was like, if I'm going to continue reading this book, it's going to be a 3-star read. That's not fair because every single one of my friends who's read this that I've talked to absolutely adored this book. So I'm like, okay, it's not fair of me to continue listening when I'm pretty sure it's the narrator, and I just wasn't in the right mind and headspace to read such a heavy contemporary book with such emotion. About losing someone that's your husband. That's a touchy subject for me, not gonna lie. So I wasn't in the right headspace, so I'm gonna go back to it at some point, and Caitlin sent this to me because she has she absolutely is positive that once I read this physically, I'm gonna love it. So I DNF'd it, but it's a DNF, I'll pick it up later type of a thing. And then the last book that I read for that reading vlog was Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. This is another new to me author. This is a contemporary romance, sports romance. It's a hockey romance. But I will say that they're adults, so they're not in college. It's a little bit different. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. And I had a lot of thoughts on this because I loved the curvy heroine rep. Xander's, the way he handles Stevie and her self-image of herself is just absolutely beautiful. I loved the encouraging things that he had to say to her, and I just felt that it was perfection the way that he was as a hero. But also there was a lot of talk of therapy, and I think that if you're going to talk about therapy in a book, I think it has to be done really, really well. And he constantly says, I've been in therapy for 10 years. I've been in therapy for 10 years. Okay, you've been in therapy for 10 years. You probably have your shit together, right? No, he doesn't, because it becomes a whole thing at the end of the book where he has this two personas of what the mass of the crowd sees him as this asshole playboy, but he's really not like that. And he's scared that if people see the real him, that they won't like him. And I'm like, dude, if you've been in therapy for 10 years, you should be okay with yourself and not give a fuck who likes you. You know what I mean? So that really made me just a little mad. I'm like, if you're going to tout that you've been in therapy for 10 years, you better come with your therapy shit, right? But Stevie's growth was so phenomenal. She carried the book for me, and I loved her as a character. I absolutely loved and adored her. So 4.5 stars. I get the hype. It was pretty good. I wish it wasn't as long, and I wish Xander's got his shit together since he was in therapy for so long. So the next book I read was Playing Hard to Get by Monica Murphy. This is her new release that released in December. And this is a contemporary new adult college romance. It's football. It's not hockey. I've been wanting to read it. I finally picked it up. It's a little bit on the shorter side. It's under 400 pages, but I gave it 3.5 stars, and it was going so well for me. I was loving Knox. I was loving Joanna and Knox's kind of relationship. She is just out of a relationship after 3 or 4 years, and Knox is this, very popular tight end for the football team. Like, he's very popular. He kind of has this playboy rap just a little bit. But he becomes a celibate for the football season because he's like tired of just, you know, doing all that stuff. He wants to focus on trying to get into the NFL. And Joanna is his tutor. He does suffer from dyslexia. And I did actually think that the dyslexia representation in this book was really, really well. It showed a different side of dyslexia. It showed that, you know, what happens when you don't treat it young and help someone who has dyslexia. It kind of gets to this point where you've kind of just figured out on your own and it's not perfect. And Joanna actually really does help him and helps tutor him. And I really enjoyed that. The ending was like cut off. It was like the chapters just stopped when they were like, we're going to be together finally. And he's like, yeah, we're going to be together. I love you. And then it just stops. I'm like, wait, what? There was no, like, don't get me wrong, there was no like third act breakup. There wasn't anything like that. It was just like them getting together and stop hiding, you know, their relationship from other people. And I was like, that's cool, but like, where did the other half of the story go? So I'm just not used to that from Monica Murphy. I felt that she was trying to keep it short, but keeping it short kind of felt like it was not a full story. I don't know. It was very confusing, but I would say it's a pretty good book if you want to try it out. But the next book I read, which is going to shock some people, and that's Balance by Lucia Franco. So I've said this countless times. I did not want to read this book. I read it previously and I gave it 1 star. I read it back in 2019. So when I downloaded this from Amazon, I went to go look at the blurb, and the author, Lucia, she rewrote it in 2020. There was a lot of things when I first read it. My 1-star review is not up anymore, but it was up. I left it up because I was like, I felt the same way. I didn't know she rewrote it. So when my friends started reading it last year and loving it, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what book are you reading? They were literally reading a totally different book. Now, when I read it this time, I gave it 4 stars. I think it is a very taboo, very forbidden, very much an age cap romance. Now, our female character, she is 16 and she turns 17, and Kova, who is the coach, she's a gymnast. He's the coach. He is 32 at the time. And yes, that is a big age gap. But when I read it, she was 14 going on 15 and she had a relationship. And there was a lot of like non-consent scenes in the book when I read it back in 2019. There was none of those scenes now. I actually think that she made Kova a little bit more softer and she put in a lot of consent, thankfully, because that was a big thing for me. I actually really enjoyed the story. Now, that doesn't mean to say that Kova and fucking Rhea don't piss me the hell off because they got a lot of shit going on. They need to fix their shit. Let me just tell you, like, they have way too much shit going on, okay? But it was a 4-star. I'm reading this because my friends are doing a read along of it. Caitlin at the Love Librarian, McKay from Oh Hey It's McKay, and Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl. I'm reading it. I'm giving it a try. So I'm going to read the second book this coming week, but 4 stars to that one. It's a little bit on the longer side. It's 600 pages, but Kova and Rhea, they got me looped into their toxic messiness. And the last book that I have for this mid-month wrap-up is Resting Witch Face by Juliet Cross, which actually I just finished today before I filmed. And I will say that I love the Stay a Spell series. Now, this is the 5th book in the Stay a Spell series. There's only 6 books. The 6th book is coming out in May. I skipped the 4th book because I've tried to read it twice now, and I am just not feeling the enemies to lovers part of that book. And so I decided to skip it because I wanted to get to Ruben and Jules' story because we have been seeing their back and forth from literally the beginning. You can tell something's there, but let me tell you, Ruben is I love him so much. He's a vampire. He's one of the most powerful vampires in New Orleans, and Jules is the enforcer of New Orleans, which kind of makes her more powerful than him. And they are going on this like kind of political tour to kind of like have werewolves be included now in kind of like political things and in the guild that, you know, magical guild basically in the United States and across in England. And it was really cool. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favorite in the series because I felt like there was more action and plot and stuff like that. And I prefer the more like Wolf Gone Wild, like personal conflict, not outside conflict of this series. But I think Ruben and Jules has this beautiful story and love story that I love to read about. And it's really cool to see a second chance romance. And I personally really enjoyed that. But yeah, I gave that one 4 stars. I have to go back and read the 4th book, and then I'll read the 6th book when it comes out in May, and then I will do a series review for you guys because that is one series that you guys wanted to see a review on as well. But that is the 14 books that I have to talk about. I talked a lot. I apologize. I don't usually talk this much in my wrap-ups, but I had a lot to say about these books. So thank you so much for watching. For the emoji, leave me a city emoji. Like, the city skyline. I don't know, that's just what I'm feeling right now. Anyway, but thank you so much for watching. I really hope you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.